Good afternoon, everybody. Kia ora. Thank you very much for joining us today for the IS update, which we do on a biannual basis. We've got a lot to talk about. My name is Jane Nichols. I know many of you. For those that I don't, I'm the Chief Engagement and Development Officer at the ISC. I'm going to take you briefly through our agenda, but before we do that, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge country and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, wherever you may be. Today, I am on the lands of the Ngawini people, who are the traditional custodians of Nipaluna, which is Hobart. Thank you. So in terms of our agenda, it is really very full. Delighted to be able to speak to you about the fact that we have our new CEO now joined us about a month ago, Toby Kent, the new Chief Executive Officer. Toby is going to speak for a relatively short time because his priority is to hear from all of you with your questions and thoughts. Toby will hand over to Andrea Macris, who's going to talk about our IS Connect conference coming up very soon between the 22nd and 24th of October. And she'll also give you a view of the broader industry engagement environment. Michael Colan will cover ratings and delivery, Ty Momberg, a technical update, over to Clodagh O'Loughlin for learning and capability, and on to Diego on our water and energy advisory groups. We'd encourage you, please, to pop your questions into the Q&A function. There will, as I said, be many opportunities for you to put your questions into place both during and at the end of the webinar. I will now hand over to Toby. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I think I can safely say good afternoon, whether you're in Australia or New Zealand. And in doing that, I'd like to acknowledge the First Nations peoples of our respective countries and pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. For me, I'm calling from Gadigal land, Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation in the city now known as Sydney. And I very much look forward to coming down to New Zealand next week and opening my conversation with similar acknowledgements of community and the Maori communities in New Zealand. So it is a real pleasure to join you today. Thank you very much for dialing in. Over these first few weeks in role, I've really been trying to get out and talk to as many members and broader stakeholders as possible, where it has been possible to do that in person. That's been a real delight, but also obviously the online world is really valuable, and so thank you for your time now. It's obviously a chance for me to introduce myself to you, and I really welcome whatever questions you may have and responding to them in a little while. Before talking to you about what potentially is ahead for ISC, bearing in mind that will be fundamentally informed by what you and others tell us, I thought I should do you the courtesy of letting you know a little bit about myself and why I've joined the ISC. And so I won't dwell on it too long, but just by way of background, I've spent most of my career working on sustainable development for about 25 years now. I've done that in startup situations. I've founded companies. I've helped grow other people's businesses, and I've worked in really large corporates as well. So those large corporates include ANZ Bank as their global head of sustainable development, and more recently PwC, where I was a partner in the energy transition team in Australia. I also had the privilege of representing Melbourne in the Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities Network. So partnering with Sydney, also Christchurch and Wellington, really working out how to help the cities prepare for whatever the future may hold. And a lot of that, as you would expect, had real infrastructure implications. Throughout all of these, I think, as you kind of get older and are able to reflect on trajectory and what you've done and why, I think some real sort of themes have emerged to that. And so, yes, I've always tried to have positive social and environmental impacts through the work I'm associated with, but I think particular skills have been around harnessing the talents of a dedicated team to try to work through partnerships and networks to achieve outstanding, perhaps even surprising levels of outcome, and working in that space in the not-for-profit, the corporate, and also the governmental realms. And so the opportunity to lead the ISC felt like a very natural and logical extension to that. I've, for quite a long time, watched closely the ISC, its purpose, its work, and the ISC's role in shaping the infrastructure ecosystems approach to sustainability. And I think it's also been a real delight coming into the organization just to really discover and learn firsthand the strength and dedication of the tremendous team that we have and the standout culture within the ISC. So my objective is very much to build on that, to harness it. But at the same time, you don't take on a role like this not to progress. And so I think there's more that we can and should do to work with you, our members, to work out what the best way forwards for us in ways that are most valuable to you. So within that, we are right now undertaking work to redo our strategy, and we will ask some questions following this session for you to complete by survey. We'll also be taking note of any things that are relevant through your questions and feeding into the overall sort of way forward. In terms of where we've come from, no one on this call needs to be reminded about how much infrastructure matters. It is a fundamental driver, determinant of well-being and social mobility, as well as physical mobility, obviously. But over the last 5 years, the projects associated with ISC, so between 2018 and 2023, off a normal base case, you as project developers, contractors, etc., have collectively saved 22,000 megaliters of recycled water that would have been spent across, otherwise spent across a project life cycle, 22 million tons of life cycle carbon associated with energy emissions. And in FY23 alone, just 14 as-built certified projects delivered reductions from base case of 21,000 tons of steel, 57,000 tons of asphalt, and 323 tons of concrete. And then going beyond that, as a standalone thing, 10 million tons of waste were diverted to landfill. So those are really big impacts. And I look forward to being able to update you very soon on our 2024 impacts. We will release the impact survey, our impact report, at the IS Connect conference between the 22nd and 24th of October. And I know Andrea's going to talk more about that in a minute. I think the final thing I'll just say about talking about those outcomes is, really importantly, every one of those savings, those benefits, were verified. And I think you cannot overstate the importance of verification, particularly when so much of our infrastructure is paid for from the public purse. And so the really important thing, and I think also verification is only going to become more important when we think about things such as certainly in Australia's case, Australia's infrastructure policy statement, and the recent infrastructure review. We've also got APRA and ASIC rulings determining around, companies need to be honest and clear about sustainability claims and impacts. And that's now being reflected in reporting standards internationally as well as in Australia, and I know New Zealand's working on it as well. So in terms of the actual kind of benefits and what we do as the IS Council, obviously working with you, our ambition ultimately is to transform the infrastructure market to making sure it's sustainable. And so we do that by working with you to encourage and celebrate innovation that delivers sustainability outcomes. We then disseminate that knowledge through case studies and webinars. Thank you for joining today, and thank you for all the case studies that you put forwards. We then socialize that best practice through the tools. And as the tools develop and as they get used and as things normalize, then the better BAU gets built into the ratings. And then ultimately, as that standardizes, it leads to formal regulation. A couple of things I think it's worth highlighting. Obviously, the sector is continuously evolving, standards are raising and so forth, and we need to be moving within that, making sure that our ratings tools in particular are just that they are tools as well as being standards. And so the IS Essentials recently developed tool is specifically intended to be more digitally activated, is specifically designed for projects less than $100 million and can probably work quite effectively at projects as low as $5 million. And our sustainability capability framework, which is now being rolled out and increasingly taken up by our members, provides guidance for identifying, attracting, and retaining talent, particularly in the construction sector, which, as we know, is that talent attraction and retention is critical at the moment. In terms of any of these outcomes have come through the efforts that you as committed individuals and members have made. And so a massive thank you for all that you do to support that. We know that in many cases, these are done above and beyond the demanding jobs that you already have. So many, many thanks. In rounding out, let me just give you a few thoughts on where we're heading or likely to head. Again, we have to be true to our strategy process. So we are, in a sense, walking in at two speeds, where on the one hand, we need to be working with you to continually evolve our offering, and at the same time, we need to make sure that doing so is done in ways that support our ultimate strategic intent. But I think for all of us, we need to acknowledge this is a challenging market, and there is more that we can do better. We know that we expect to build on the good work that we've started working with the water industries and to build on work that is happening with the energy sector as well. So if I stop talking, that'll give Diego a chance at the end to tell you about some of that work. We are also looking to make much more of some of the work that we've done with the finance sector, who in many cases are now the ultimate owners of infrastructure. So we want to make sure that our tools, the work that we do, the member benefits and everything are equally valued and asked for by the finance sector to keep us moving. And we do want to digitize as much as possible to make use of our tools as approachable and flexible as possible, as well as bearing in mind that obviously from a membership perspective, there are more and more things that people expect to be able to access digitally. So we will work on that. All of those things are easy to say. They all take time and cost money. And so being really frank with you, with me as an incoming CEO, I've got to work with the team to work out how we can most effectively meet your needs in ways that we can afford to do. But obviously, we're really, really committed to those improvements. Now, I am going to hand to Andrea to talk about the conference, but I wouldn't, I think, be doing my role if I didn't really encourage as many of you to come along. It's lining up to be a really great set of both speakers, but also the attendees are now really beginning to roll in, and so we can see who's going to be there from the system. It is a great chance for all of us to connect as ultimately shared colleagues in this endeavor. And so please do come along. I'm absolutely genuine in saying that I want to hear from you, listen to your ideas, responses, and so whether you've got any questions or suggestions or anything else, either about what we're doing overall or in relation to the conference, please be in touch anytime. I look forward to answering your questions shortly. But right now, Andrea, over to you.
Many thanks to you, Toby, for sharing your opening remarks. I think I can safely speak on all of the team at the ISC in saying that it's been really great getting to know you this past month, and we're all excited about what lies ahead. It's now time for us to take some questions from the audience. I'm just looking at the Q&A widget and I don't see any questions there. So while I'm speaking at this moment, please, I do encourage you to pop your questions in if you have any. There's no silly question. We really encourage you to interact and take this opportunity to put your thoughts or comments or questions forward. If none do come to light at this moment in time, please pop them in through the course of the webinar, because there may be an opportunity towards the end. There should be, in fact, for Toby to jump in and answer those questions at that time. Here we go. Fantastic. There's a question from Caroline. Toby, can you share what the 9 social projects are? And that's probably from the previous slide. I'm going to step in for you there if you'd like me to, Toby, but
sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Probably not at this immediate moment, but we can certainly through the course of the webinar provide a list, or straight after this. So happy to provide a list, but I don't think we know them at this moment as a list to go through it right now. But thank you for the question, really appreciate it. And that's an interesting point to call out. When we speak of social infrastructure, we tend to think of blue and green infrastructure, just for clarity. So for the likes of swimming pools and pedestrian and cycle pathways and so on. If there are no others, we may just press on with the agenda. So I didn't introduce myself, everybody. My name is Andrea Macris, the Head of Business Engagement here at the ISC. And I will start by very warmly welcoming our newest members who have joined since the last IS Update webinar. So I won't read out all of the names here, but I just do want to say that we deeply value the support of all of our members, our newest members and our founding members, and congratulate you on joining a very strong and dedicated community of best practice that's committed to leadership and collaboration and innovation and assurance as well. I'd also like to introduce you to some new faces in the industry engagement team. Since we last joined you on this webinar platform, we've had Mike Kilburn move into the role of Head of Policy and Communications. We have Karen Su, who's joined the team in the role of Member Relations and Advocacy Advisor. We have Rohan Nandan, who's joined us in the role of Business Engagement Manager, and Kurt Leach, who is stepping in for us for 6 months to cover a parental leave position, and he's in the role of Membership Administrator. So hopefully you'll have some sort of engagement with the team at some point. This year, we've done quite a few things across the industry engagement team. I won't have the opportunity to talk through all of it, but I thought I'd pick out some highlights. from the industry engagement team. We had the launch of the Spotlight on the Supplier webinar series in January. So since that time, we've featured 30 suppliers across Australia and New Zealand. And that's ranged from software companies through to low carbon concrete, pipes and everything in between. These webinars bring to life the dozens of iSupply listings that are available in the iSupply directory. So if you haven't had a chance yet to explore that directory, I encourage you to do so and share it with your procurement teams and project teams as well. In May, we released a white paper following the industry-wide consultation and research, and that dives into the opportunities and challenges around sustainable procurement of products and services in infrastructure. So I do encourage you also to have a look at that if you have some time or interest. It is hosted on our website as well. And coming soon, we will have a summary of another piece of research we conducted which specifically looks at trends in the uptake of recycled content in infrastructure projects and circular economy outcomes more broadly. So we'll be able to share that with you in a couple of weeks' time. So something to look out for. Moving on to the next slide. Looking ahead, we have a very busy events calendar as always, and lots of opportunities to connect and engage with each other and the broader ecosystem. We've had a series of morning teas already, which we're rolling out across Australia and New Zealand, as Toby mentioned. So we had yesterday in Sydney. As you can see on the screen there, Toby will be moving around the country and across the ditch. So please do take some time to come along and meet him in person if you are able to. We also had a ratings case study last week that was looking at the ECN credit, a great opportunity for knowledge sharing and looking at case studies and best practice and sort of practical insights. So look out for those. There's another one coming up in November. The Spotlight on Supplier series, which I just touched on briefly before. And of course, there is in October our annual conference. So I will take a few moments to do a bit of a deep dive into the conference now. It's quite a fulsome program, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was across all the opportunities there. It is going to be in Sydney this year from the 22nd to the 24th of October, but you can join virtually. So if you would like to take advantage of this really significant knowledge building opportunity, I encourage you to block the time out and register your attendance online so that you can take advantage of the great content that's being presented. There are also some great packages available, so do check those out if you have an inclination to come along. The program, in terms of what happens over the course of the 3 days, as I mentioned, is quite fulsome. On the first day, we'll start with our ISAP day at the Ridges in Sydney, and that evening we'll have the certification dinner. On day 2 is actually the first day of the conference proper. So that's the full day of conferencing across 3 stages. On the 3rd day, it's the second day of the conference. We have 3 events happening. So it's the last day of the conference. We also have a leadership lunch. And then finally that evening will be the awards and gala dinner. So I'll just get you to pop back a couple of slides if you don't mind, please, Lauren. Thank you. So on conference day 1, we have a very, excuse me, jam-packed program across 3 stages, as I mentioned. As you can see, some of the highlights there, looking at the value of connected infrastructure, which is a core theme across the entire conference. Action, of course, towards net zero across the private and public sector. We're looking at sustainable and resilient supply chains and big impacts on small projects, just as a few examples. On conference day 2, we have the continuation of our Big Ideas panel. So part 2 is looking at how infrastructure brings people and communities together and really responding to mega trends. We have an Innovations for Impact session on both days, where we're looking at specific innovations that are driving real impact by our supplier community. And there will be a special conference session that's looking at renewable electrons and those not equating to sustainable electrons. So doing a bit of a deep dive across the entire energy sector and how that sector can move towards sustainability with more intent. Moving on from this second day, to cover the leadership lunch, the focus this year for our leadership event will be sustainable procurement. We're delighted to announce that we'll have the Honourable Matt Keane speaking at this event, as well as Richard Martin from Connell Griffin, who is the event partner for this particular lunch this year. We'll have Fiona Sergi from C-Spark, Danielle Cox from Connell Griffin also, and Craig McGrory, who's the Chief Transformation Officer at Acciona. So please do get along and encourage your senior leadership team to register for this event as well if they're able to come along. Next slide, please. I will wrap up, but I will join you towards the end of the webinar again, should you have any further questions. I'll now be handing over to my colleague. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Just like to welcome myself. I'm Michael Colin. I'm the General Manager for Ratings and Delivery here at the ISC. And it's great that I can join you this afternoon and talk a little bit about some of the highlights that we've had in the Ratings and Delivery team this year. So the team that in ratings, we support projects, develop tools, and help projects deliver great outcomes. So we've got 23 employees across project support and technical development. This year has been a really big year for us. We've developed and launched the IS Essentials tool, which is a tool to allow projects between $5 million and $100 million to use the IS ratings tools across their projects. As a part of that, there's a digital platform involved, which makes the delivery and application of those tools significantly easier for projects. We've also launched our IS strategic planning, which is currently we're currently looking for partners so we can do some trials for that tool. And again, we know that the earlier in the life cycle stages that we can start talking about sustainability, the better the outcomes are. So that's why we're looking at strategic planning to try and make sure that we start the conversation really early in regards to sustainability. We've implemented a new business model across our ratings agreements, which has been very successful. All our new registrations are now undertaken on the version 2.1 design and as-built platform. That's a tool which has some changed benchmarks because we've been seeing some really great outcomes, and we're just continuing to help and challenge projects to continue looking to the future, to continue to deliver great outcomes. During the year, we've had 43 new ratings agreements with a capital value of $35 billion. So that's an average of over $800 million for each project. And what's been really great as well is we've had 58 different certifications done across the year. And if you just go to the next slide, please. So during the year, I guess one of the things that we love doing is we love celebrating with projects. We love celebrating great outcomes. So during the year, we've had 25 different design projects that have been certified. We've had 27 as-built projects that have been certified, 1 essential, 1 ops, and 4 planning. And it's just great to be able to come together with the project teams that have been involved and done so much hard work across each of these things to deliver some really, really good outcomes. And there was $6.68 billion in assets in the as-built certification. So, thinking about all of that work that's been done, all the great outcomes that we've seen across all those projects has been so exciting. And like Toby said, we've got some really good data around some of the savings in emissions, savings in energy across each of those projects. And the great thing is we'll be able to launch that at the conference is coming up very soon and talk about all the great outcomes we've seen across those projects. Now I'd like to pass over to Ty, the Associate Technical Director. Ty.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for the introduction. I think many of you know me, but for those that don't, my name is Ty Mumberg, and I'm going to give a quick update on what's happening on the technical front. Next slide, please. I guess in terms of some updates and in terms of what has happened since our last IS update back in May, the technical working groups have been incredibly busy in terms of finalizing and launching a number of key work plan items that we believe is not only going to help projects with IS ratings, but also achieve really great sustainable outcomes. I'm just going to pick up on two of those right now. The first one is the proponent technical working group guidance document on contract considerations for an IS rating. And that's going to be launching in the next day or so, so please do look out for that. This guidance document has been developed to support proponents, and especially those proponents who are newer to IS ratings, and it's to support them in the process of setting the contract-related requirements. The document itself contains a number of issues that the more experienced members from the technical working group have gone through, and then some lessons learned so that these people who are newer, the newer proponents, don't have to go through the same teething issues. The second document, which has been launched, is the Design and As-Built Technical Working Group ENE1 user note. The document is located on the ISC Resource Center available to ISAPs. This is also a guidance document. It has been developed to support IS assessors and the relevant project team members in the understanding and delivery of the Energy One credit. It provides a flowchart of the credit requirements, as well as a really excellent overview of the energy model inputs, the outputs, and the relevant stakeholders. Moving on to the next slide, please. So in terms of other work and other things that we have been working on, and obviously in addition to those rating tools that have been launched that Michael covered, we have been continuing to undertake a number of continuous improvement measures to really maintain and enhance the technical integrity of the IS rating scheme. This slide provides an overview of the total number of items on our CI register. You can see the total number on the top left. It also highlights which rating type those investigations relate to, the type of feedback that we have received. And then you can see on the bottom right-hand side, the average CI resolution times. And it's really pleasing to see that those resolution times are going down. So we're getting better and faster at answering those technical queries as we go. On to the next slide, please. And now looking into the future. So this is the technical work plan for the rest of the financial year. You can see there are 6 focus areas, and that's on the left, and then a number of high priority items on the right-hand side of the slide. I'm not going to talk through each of these, but just focus on a couple that relate to the rating tool development. So the first one of these is that we really are focusing on providing rollout support for the new IS Essentials and planning tools. We're really excited about these and the impact they can have on the market, and we want to provide additional support to help them get working and functioning properly in the market. The second one is the focus on how we update the rating tool benchmarks going forward, and how we update the rating tools going forward, and also how we then set up the structures to enable this. That's everything from my side. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Claudia. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Claudia O'Loughlin. I'm the Learning Consultant at the IS Council. A couple of small updates in our team. We'd like to welcome Rebecca Santiago to our team in the role of Sustainability Learning Partner. You're going to be experiencing and seeing a lot more of Rebecca working for our training and capability team very soon. We're also delighted to welcome on board Simon Hooper as a trainer who is facilitating the IS for Professionals pathways. Next slide, please. As part of our learning and capability updates, we're delighted to announce that we will be opening up applications early for this year's RISE Leadership Mentoring. What is involved in the RISE Leadership Mentoring, if you're not already familiar with it, it's a virtual 9-month program which takes place across Australia and New Zealand. We select 20 mentors and 20 mentees, and they are matched using an algorithm followed by an additional screening to ensure that they're appropriate. Some of the benefits that have been reported in previous cohorts have been improved confidence, self-awareness, clearer career direction, and enhanced leadership skills. In addition, we hosted the RISE mentoring event in Melbourne, which was sponsored by Gamuda Australia. A huge shout out, thank you to Gamuda for their sponsorship of this programme, and to Arcadis for hosting this event. We had 30 attendees, and a huge thank you to the incredible panellists, Andrea Monson, Poppy Coleman, Mohammed Haley Young, to name many, many more. A massive thank you to all the mentors and mentees who participated. The event was filled with valuable energy, insights and connections, and you too can take part in the next Rise Leadership Mentoring. Apply soon. Next slide, please. We're also delighted to let you know that the IS for Essentials training toolkit is available now. It's as part of the Design and As-Built training package, or you can use it as a standalone if you're an existing ISAP. Within the IS Essentials toolkit, you'll explore the key considerations of undertaking an IS Essentials rating through 5 digital modules. And upon completion, you can demonstrate your learning through an end-of-course assessment, and you can access a certificate, which you can then share to the wider community via LinkedIn, via socials, via email, whichever way you decide to do that. We are really delighted with this learning offering, and we're really hoping that this will be the platform to launch many more like it. Next slide, please. Now, I'm delighted to talk about the capability building roadmap that we're looking at developing up ahead. How we're looking to develop it is working through ISAP supplier and rating webinars, providing these as paid and free resources to enable the measurement of infrastructure sustainability capabilities. Not only that, to spotlight the impact that our members, that our suppliers have on industry with industry. On top of that, we were delighted to release the capability framework, and this I will speak a little bit more about in the next slide, but you can explore the capabilities and career paths of sustainability professionals through research and partnerships, development of a framework that promotes professional growth and shows a clear pathway to success in infrastructure sustainability. On top of that, we are also delighted to announce the Capability Academy. We're hoping to provide a library of resources, courses and tools to support professional development in key sustainability and capability areas. Next slide, please. So what is the capability framework? This is a guidance document designed to support professionals building capability in areas applicable to their roles or interests. It was designed to enable and enhance the retention of professionals by demonstrating career progression pathways, development opportunities, and much, much more. It's aimed at hiring managers, recruiters, HR professionals, and IS infrastructure sustainability professionals to identify transferable skills, knowledge, and mindsets in the industry. It's also available to aspiring sustainability professionals to identify entry points into the profession. So if you know of any graduates, this is available free on our website, and I'd be more than happy to share with you the link to download this. Capability, next slide, please. Capability is more than skills at a basic level. It's the ability to do something or deliver a specific outcome. And you see here that we have core skills, business skills, and technical skills. In some cases, leadership capabilities can extend beyond these elements. There are different aspects of self-leadership, for example, confidence and self-awareness. And what we've done is we've engaged with industry to identify what key elements of these are essential in infrastructure sustainability leaders. So if you're a leader yourself, or you're looking at an individual, if you're an individual who's looking to enhance your skills in leadership, this will be a fantastic document for you to check out, to really look at what elements you could improve on to develop your career potential. Next slide, please. The Capability Academy, we're working our way towards phase 1, which is the planning and partnerships phase. And we're going to identify and develop partnerships with industry, education and government with a shared goal of elevating sustainability capabilities across the sector. We want to test our existing assumptions on what the industry needs by conducting a capability needs assessment, and define the Capability Academy model, identifying key capabilities, delivery methods, and accessibility. In short, what gaps are there in this industry? What education do the individuals in our industry need? And how are we going to deliver that to time-poor, busy, extremely highly motivated sustainability professionals. And that is all that I have to say there. I'd like to hand over to Diego, the IS project manager.
Thanks, Clara. Can you hear me well? So just as Toby mentioned earlier, well, I'm Diego, IS project manager based in Sydney. As Toby mentioned earlier, the water and energy sectors, they've been identified as strategic focus areas for the ISC as we look into increasing the proportion of IS ratings presently coming from these sectors, especially given the high potential opportunities for increased sustainability outcomes. The advisory groups were set up to engage with experts, practitioners, proponents, etc. across these sectors. So in the next slides, well, I'll provide a quick update on the progress of the works produced by this group so far. As you can see here, this is starting with the water advisory group. The works were concluded early this year. And here's a quick summary of the recommendations made to the ISC and the follow-up actions taken. All actions from the water advisory group, they've been now either completed or they've been included in our future work plan and communicated to all the group members. So as you can see on the left is the feedback provided by the group on a credit level. That's for version 2.1 design and as-built. And on the right side, the classification of that feedback received and the actions taken, including what's for immediate action, what's being fed into our continuous improvement register, and so on. And also new resources available, either as a result of the works or associated with the feedback provided. Some of them, as you can see here, includes the IS ratings for water info brochure. It's all available on our website, case studies on the water treatment plant in New South Wales, as well as the Essentials tool recently launched as covered before, and the new resource center. So for all the water advisory group, would like to thank you again for your valuable contributions for the version 2.1 design and as-built to ensure that our tools are fit for purpose for the water sector projects and assets. So next slide, please. On to the energy advisory group now. Here's a quick overview of group's members. As you can see, we have a really great bunch of key stakeholders across the energy ecosystem in Australia and New Zealand, including developers, operators, suppliers, consultants, and all of them hold influential positions in organizations associated with the energy sector. And that's spanning from renewable energy generation, transmission, and distribution projects, as you can see here as well. Next slide, please. So the Energy Advisory Group, our first meeting was in November last year. So we're currently undertaking, there's quite a few work streams. The group has identified the following, these three key areas, as you can see here, as well. It was split into subgroups. So subgroup 1A and 1B, they're looking at reviewing IS rating tools from the energy project's perspective, and then to formulate a value proposition for the sector. Subgroup 2 is looking at investigating supply chain sustainability risks and opportunities in Australia and New Zealand, again, bringing the perspective from energy projects. And finally, subgroup 3 is looking at engagement with the wider industry and community on sustainability performance standards, including IS ratings. Finally, we also have a community of practice, and the good news is we currently have more than 30 people that have expressed their interest in the outcomes of the group, all the work that's being done. So here's a call out. If you are an expert in any of the key areas outlined here on this slide, or you would just like to contribute or just to be kept in the loop, please feel free to reach out to Monique or any other staff that you may have contacts with. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Diego. And that concludes the presentation component of our webinar today. Now we're moving into the interactive part, which is where we get to answer some of your questions. So thank you to everybody that has submitted questions ahead of the webinar and during the discussion. So I might draw from one that was submitted earlier, and I'll address this one to you, Toby, if that's okay. So what upcoming opportunities for ISC are you most excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think I'll answer it in kind of two levels. So one is, we've been around for 12 years, and we've got, I touched on this in some of my opening remarks, we've got a great track record in working with the industry to achieve collective outcomes. But at the same time, I think now is the chance for us to really move up a level in terms of working with all of you as members, partner organizations, to become an ever more fundamental or even more fundamental part of the Australian-New Zealand infrastructure system. And so in terms of that and what that means, I think we're looking to in fact, Andrea is literally the embodiment of leading our work to refresh our membership offering. That will lead to us being much more accessible, and I think both in relation to membership and making sure that you're getting the benefits that we've realized many organizations have signed up to but aren't taking advantage of always. So we really want to be more engaged with you, and also in terms of our ratings, which is also a really important part of our business, both the expansion to build in on the sectors where we're already engaging, but go further and deeper with that. And I think really, I have to be careful in saying this, because we have to do the work and make sure it's agreed with our members and the board being made up of member directors as well. But we really see a world in which we are working with to make the ratings, ensure that the ratings are really about driving best practice, or certainly good and beyond business as usual practice, in a way that is actually also ever more useful and accessible. So there's some complexity into that, but I think when we get that right, that will be really transformational, and that's really exciting for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Toby. One's just popped in for you, Diego. Somebody's asked if it's possible to get a link to some of the resources that were mentioned, like the water case studies. If you'd like to pop back in and answer that live, you're welcome to, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
That's correct. I'll just I'll get them and I'll pop into the chat. Thank you.
No problem. I'll also take the question from Mark Butterworth. For ISC ratings, there appears to be a bias towards ISC ratings for projects. If we're developing a product that would contribute, is the approach to apply for ISC ratings for the product the same?
Yeah, can I?
Please.
I'll jump in on that. So while we want to work with the entire infrastructure system overall, our ratings as currently designed, and to the extent as we imagine going forwards, are really at the project and asset level. So they are not designed for product. What we have done to account for that is we have the iSupply system, where suppliers can load their products onto the system, and so that is then available and visible to members and users of iSupply, or members and users of ISC, and the iSupply is the kind of the channel for that. So happy to sort of pick that up offline or otherwise, but that's absolutely kind of where we are for now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Toby. We have now one from Lana at South Australian Water Corporation. How are you working, or how are we working with Infrastructure Australia to align tools and requirements?
So probably a few kind of layers to that. So one is, what have we been doing historically as an organization? We have a very healthy working relationship with Infrastructure Australia, and through that are very clear on what each of us is doing. in making my opening remarks, I said, you don't take on a role like this not trying to push new things and strive for progress. So I have an early view that part of the way that the ratings tools might evolve is for us to be able to show how the tools can better incorporate other standards, other mechanisms, etc. But having said that, and so a critical part of that would be making sure we're aligning with Infrastructure Australia, their resilience piece, their sustainability framework, etc. But at the same time, in saying that, I am getting ahead of myself. We haven't. We are. I think we need to find a balance as an organization between being rigorous and thoughtful at everything that we do, and also ensuring that we are moving fast enough with the market to make sure that we're adding value to you all. So in saying that, we need to go through the process and make sure everything is done appropriately in terms of aligning tools and so forth. That's not to suggest we're necessarily going to be slow. It just means we haven't done those right things yet, and that's all going to be part of the strategy review, product review, and so forth. That is part of that is underway currently, and we'll look to tie up really quite soon, early in the FY25 calendar year.
Great, thanks Toby for the answer. Thank you, Lana, for the question. This next one may elicit a very similar answer, but I'll read it out anyway. It's thank you, Caroline, for your question from City Rail Link. How can the ISC support the calls for an all of government infrastructure strategy in New Zealand?
It's a good question, and I will be. I think my style in leading ISC will always be as open as I can, and so in that same vein, if I were going to be really honest, I don't have the answer right now. What we do know, Andrew, in introducing the team, spoke about having Mike Kilman coming in to help lead policy and advocacy. We have not had a clear enough in recent times advocacy agenda, and so therefore I'm not sure of the specifics right now, other than to say New Zealand is really important to us. We want to continue doing what we're doing in New Zealand. We want to do more in New Zealand, and we need to overall have a much clearer advocacy position, policy positions as an organization. So if you have thoughts on how we should contribute and what we should be doing, I would be delighted to hear from you.
Great, thank you. We've also had a question before the webinar requesting a bit of an update on our plans for digitisation in terms of the remainder of the IS ratings tools. Would you like to take that one, Toby, or perhaps
Again, I said I'll be honest. I completely zoned out while you asked that question because I was looking at something that had dropped into the chat.
I love it.
Either somebody who's
I'm going to call on Michael or Ty to step in and answer the question, which we all know the answer to, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question in terms of looking at digitalization of our tools. What we've done, I guess, is we've developed the first digital platform and we've rolled it out with IS Essentials. What we've done very deliberately is we've designed the platform and designed all the underlying architecture to allow us to roll it out on other platforms. Obviously, we want to roll it out as quickly as possible, but we also want to make sure that the platform that we have is rigorous and capable of handling what we need it to handle. So we are looking at bringing other tools online as soon as possible, trying to keep in mind obviously our internal resources, but also trying to make sure that we get some good feedback from IS Essentials projects using the platform. So it's high on our agenda and it's something we are keen to do. We're just trying to take a as measured approach as possible.
Excellent. Thank you,
and
Michael.
I think just to add to Michael's comments, again, we really need projects to be signing up to use Essentials. The more that can do it, the more it populates that system, the easier it'll be for us to then, and Essentials has been built in a way that it can be scaled up but it needs the volume to help the scaling.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's been a question also submitted in relation to how ESG is incorporated into the infrastructure sustainability area, and this may be an area that's sort of you're best to pick up, Toby, given your background.
Sure. So, obviously, ESG is a fairly broad space, and so I think probably what the question is really talking about are things like the Australian Sustainability Reporting Standards, the work with the Australian Sustainable Finance Initiative, other reporting requirements going on in Australia and around the world. So what we have at the moment, what we provide is really robust, verified information at an asset and project level. What that doesn't naturally do is allow a company to aggregate to explain its total carbon, which is the main focus of the sustainability reporting standards at the moment, its total carbon impact, or looking ahead to consider what the total impacts of an organization, its reliance on and impact on nature when coming off the Task Force for Nature-related Financial Disclosures, and our anticipation that those will also be mandated as reporting requirements. So on the one hand, we need to be honest that it doesn't solve everything. On the other hand, in a world in which organizations are under increasing pressure to be able to actually demonstrate their claims, what we are able to offer is really clear information and reassurance, validated or verified impacts of projects at that project level. And so you could imagine a world in which if a company had all of its major projects ISC certified, they would actually be able to say, here we have really clear understanding of our whatever specific impacts. We'll stick with climate and carbon for now, of our carbon impact at a project level, and that might well capture 80% of their emissions and so forth. And so we think we've got a valuable offering. And part of the work, when I mentioned doing more in the finance sector, is actually is finance going to draw from, rely upon, and encourage uptake of IS standards so that they can have confidence that their sustainability commitments are being met through their investments and their lending. So all of that goes into the ESG mix. And as I say, it's got a valuable role to play, but doesn't meet everything. The final thing, just again, where there are specific things, the work that we've done around modern slavery, for example, we got great feedback from members around the work there. And so that also is part of a broader ESG agenda. We, a little bit like the conclusion of my previous comment, if you have ideas, suggestions, requests about what ISC should be doing in this space, we would, now's the time. We're always open to hearing from you, but there's a particular urgency right now as we work on our strategy. So please be in touch.
Thank you so much. And to that end, I would also encourage everybody to complete the survey at the conclusion of this webinar, which is just in a short moment. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We really appreciate you registering to come along and joining us today. We will see you again in 6 months' time. If we didn't answer any of your questions, we will come back to you after the session. And yes, please do complete the survey, as we are very keen to hear from you as always. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much, everyone.